100,000 by 1969. But even with all those soldiers, the war proved difficult, with rebels in the South known as the Viet Cong using guerrilla warfare tactics. It became increasingly unpopular at home, with widespread protests happening nationwide. In 1975, after the U.S. fully withdrew, the North Vietnamese Army launched a final offensive. On April 30th, the capital city of Saigon fell to the north, marking the end of the Vietnam War and the reunification of Vietnam under communist rule. But before Saigon fell, then President Gerald Ford authorized the evacuation of thousands of Vietnamese orphans. It became known as Operation Baby Lift, with the first flight out of Saigon on April 4th, 1975.
These orphans will be flown to Travis Air Force Base in California and other bases on the West Coast and cared for in those locations. These 2,000 Vietnamese orphans are all in the process of being adopted by American families.
Many of them were frail, weak, malnourished little babies. But to Sister Mary Nell Gage, they were precious cargo.
Pan Am's last flight out.
The littlest victims of the Vietnam War.
We had 4 children on that flight.
Abandoned orphans she helped get out of the country.
How can we do this? This is just an impossible task.
In the desperate final days of the war, with Viet Cong forces closing in and Saigon about to fall,
we did everything we could.
She's part of Sisters of Loretto, a Catholic religious order with a sacred mission. The children lived in deplorable conditions.
Diapers hanging everywhere, and the aroma was such that I'm thinking, whoa, I don't know about this.
Sister Gage helped arrange adoptions for thousands of Vietnamese orphans as one of the first organizers of what would eventually become known as Operation Baby Lift.
These children on the plane.
Families all over the world anxiously awaiting their arrival.
And those are 2 children who went to France. We had children leaving every week.
She returned to the U.S., a chance to catch her breath and work back home, processing the orphans on their arrival. Around that time, she overheard a phone call that upended her life.
One of our sisters, she's on the phone with her back to me, and I hear her say, I will keep this for Mary Nell as long as I can.
It was April 4th, 1975, when a C-5 Air Force jet loaded with Vietnamese orphans being evacuated to the U.S. crashed just outside Saigon. Everybody that's circled here, did they die in the crash?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. There's Dolly, who died in the plane. Birgit.
Amazingly, more than 170 people survived, including babies and children. Through heartbreak and grief, she met the next plane load of hundreds of children on a Pan Am flight the very next day, arriving in the U.S.
It's a gift that you can hardly hope for.
For a half-century, those frantic final days of the Vietnam War and the desperate effort to save the children have in many ways defined Sister Gage's life, faith, and focus. You see these little faces, it's hard to believe they're all 50-plus years old now, right?
Oh, isn't that the truth? Oh, my.
She still stays in touch with many of the children she helped get out of Vietnam.
I think the fact that they are a survivor of an horrendous event has given them an extra purpose.
Along the way, helping to fill the blank pages of their life story wherever she can.
What a gift.
This small memorial now marks the spot where that C-5 plane carrying the first wave of children out of Saigon crashed. Bud Traynor was commander of that flight when a catastrophic malfunction blew open the cargo door.
They generally never sent the C-5 in. It was just too easy for somebody to pick off.
But Captain Bud Traynor got his orders.
What we want is for you to take a retrograde cargo out of Saigon. Okay, what? Well, people. We want you to go figure out how many you can take. We're used to working in tons, not in people. So we went back and we said, you know, I'll bet we could take 2,000 people. And I'm talking about putting them in standing up because the weight wouldn't be a factor. Well, they're going to be children. What? 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 Yeah, they're going to be children. And all of a sudden, everybody got serious, and they went out and raided the BX and commissary, and they brought the people out in these blue school buses. That's the C-5 itself.
The time came to load the babies and children on the cargo plane.
Upstairs in the crew compartment, in all of the 73 seats, we would put 2 kids, a pillow, a juice, seatbelt. Next seat, same thing. If the kids were old enough, facile enough to undo their seatbelt and start messing around, we took them out, put them downstairs.
They put as many children on the plane as possible.
They are literally sitting on the floor on blankets or along a catwalk that goes all the way down both sides. They kept promising us right up to the very end that they'd give me a manifest of the kids, and they never did. We didn't go click, click, click as they walked in the door. I never had a clue other than, that looks like a lot.
Then they got clearance to take off.
Because of the missile threat, we took off slowly and climbed as fast as we could. We had just crossed Vung Tau, maybe 2 or 3 minutes past, and we're now out over the water. There was a loud bang. The cockpit filled with condensation. And I remember I didn't have my feet on the rudder pedals, and they went bam. The co-pilot was putting on his oxygen mask. I said, yeah, that's probably what I should do too. So you reach over and you put the oxygen mask on. I deployed a scanner. He described the back of the airplane as a big gaping hole with the flight control cables fluttering out the back like spaghetti.
It was time to try to land.
Yeah, I'm pulling, and of course nothing's happening. And now I'm really getting go fast. And faster and faster, and I'm looking down at Vung Tau. It's right down in front of me, and I'm thinking, I don't want to become a permanent fixture down by the gate shack.
The C-5 was coming in for a landing at about 311 miles per hour.
And suddenly the airplane rolls, and it coasted in like a toboggan and left these big long tracks in the dirt. We turned around, came to a stop, cranked open the window, and stepped out. And normally the flight deck would be 33 feet in the air, and of course I'm just stepping right out. And I look back along the side of the flight deck, and I see the wings burning. So I walked, toward the fire. I was hoping to find live kids. I did not. Other people had gone out toward the fire and then looked over, and 100 yards away was the troop compartment.
That compartment is where the children survived. Air America was on scene in about 4 minutes after listening to the transmission.
A nurse and a med tech were trapped in the wreckage, and we got a bunch of local people that were out there and fastened some tie-down chains to the wreckage of where the crew door was, and we ended up, heave, and each time we could extract the 2 crewmen out of there. We did get them out of there.
As for the cause of the crash, the rear cargo door locks failed after routine maintenance just before the baby lift mission.
It breaks apart, breaks the pressure door, and they took off the locks. But when they put them back on, they didn't re-rig the doors.
After guiding the crippled C-5 in a crash landing, Captain Bud Traynor was credited with the survival of more than 170 people on board. He received the Air Force Cross for extraordinary heroism and airmanship.
I don't think any of the crew took, ownership of the deaths. They took ownership of the lives. The tail is up here, and this little thing that looks like a Quonset hut is where all the kids survived. And let me see what we got here. You can see this is all that's left of the cargo compartment. Virtually nothing.
And after 50 years, it is difficult to remember everything about Operation Baby Lift's first flight out.
But other things are pretty much burned into your memory. I'm pretty sure I'll never forget some of the feeling in that 15 minutes between the rapid decompression and hitting the ground. It was quite something.
Next, searching for clues of a past lost in the devastation of war. And We're going to assign you one of these babies across the desk in Denver, or you can walk into the next room and choose a son.
How one nurse helping with the evacuation of hundreds of orphans found a new purpose after meeting one young boy.
I am assured that all bureaucratic red tape is being eliminated and that we will make a total effort to see to it that South Vietnamese war orphans are brought to the United States.
1-800-GOT-JUNK works till midnight, 7 days a week.